This podcast is part of the Big Heads Media Podcast Network. Go to bigheadsmedia.com for more great podcasts.
Beep, beep. Welcome back to the spooky Faves of Our Lives. I'm Kelly, and your other host is Brittany.
Hey, guys.
Come on down here and float with us as we talk about it.
All right. It was a two-part miniseries that aired in 1990 on November 18th and November 20th. It was directed by Tommy Lee Wallace. The cast was Harry Anderson and Seth Green as Richie Tozier, Dennis Christopher and Adam Frizzell as Eddie Kasprak, Richard Masur and Ben Heller as Stanley Uris, Annette Toole and Emily Perkins as Beverly Marsh, Tim Reed and Marlon Taylor as Mike Hanlon, John Ritter and Brandon Crane as Ben Hanscom, Richard Thomas and Jonathan Brandis as Bill Denbrough, and Tim Curry as Pennywise. And the plot is, in 1960, 7 preteen outcasts fight an evil demon who poses as a child-killing clown. 30 years later, they reunite to stop the demon once and for all when it returns to their hometown. Now, Kelly, I know you had a lot of fun watching this, so I'm going to let you talk about how much you enjoyed it.
Okay, so I went into watching this movie thinking that it was going to scare the crap out of me, and I wasn't really excited about watching it. And I started watching it, and immediately I thought that Pennywise was hilarious. I mean, despite the fact that he eats children. But other than that, he's just so funny. And I'm not one of those people that's super terrified of clowns, so that part didn't really bother me. But just his lines, the stuff he said cracked me up so much.
Yeah, I agree, and I know a lot of people like to compare this to the new, like the remake that just came out.
Mm-hmm.
The main thing that they compare is the character of Pennywise. You have Bill Skarsgård in the new one, and he does a great job, but it's a completely different approach. My personal favorite is the original.
Yeah. So this movie and the other movies that we've discussed, they basically gave me a false sense of confidence because I thought these are all really funny to me and maybe I'm not afraid of scary movies anymore. So I watched the original It, which I didn't finish it, not the original. I watched the new one thinking, oh, it's not going to be that scary, and I was going to go see the second part with Chad, and I was like, no, this is 1,000% scarier than the original.
Yeah, it is. I still think that I'm going to go see Chapter 2, but I'm not sure that that is a movie that I really want to go watch in theaters. Maybe watch it at home with the lights on.
Right. I probably could do that, but there's no way I could sit in the movie theater. Plus, it's like almost 3 hours long, and I'm like, the whole original was 3 hours long. How'd they make it into 5 hours worth of movie?
Yeah, I think that they pulled more from the book.
Oh, that's true.
They were able to do that because I am listening to the book on Audible right now, and it is like 38 hours long. That's how big that book is.
That's crazy.
So I think the easiest way to approach this and give you a recap is to do it kind of how the remake is doing it. To give you the 1960s portion and what happens, and then what is going on in present time. I feel like the back and forth is going to be too confusing in terms of me telling you. So the first thing that happens that introduces us to Pennywise is Georgie, an adorable little boy.
Oh my god, he's so cute on the new and the old.
He decides that he wants to play with his big brother, Bill. Bill is sick in bed with the flu, so he can't play. He's also kind of being a jerk to him, but it's your typical big brother behavior. He tells him, I made you this paper boat, but in order for it to actually float, I need you to go downstairs and get the paraffin. That way we can waterproof it. So Georgie goes downstairs and he's standing at the top of the cellar, and I can relate to this kid so much, because my great-grandma had a cellar that she stored, like, applesauce and everything that she made, and it was scary as hell.
I think that even regular basements as a child are scary.
That's true. That's one of the selling points of this house, is that the basement is completely finished and lit, and there's nothing creepy about it. It's just another part of the house.
Yeah, my basement is like, if there's a tornado warning, I'm like, I don't know, maybe I'd rather just die than go down there.
Well, little Georgie is brave, and he runs down and he grabs it, brings it back up to Bill, and he waterproofs it. Georgie's dressed in this yellow slicker. He's ready to go. Bill tells him, well, be careful out there. Georgie kisses him on the cheek, and Bill tells him he's gonna get cooties. Well, actually, he says cooties, because Bill has a stutter. I feel like that's important. And you can just tell this kid is really concerned about his brother. He knows something. Georgie goes out, and he has his boat following the stream that leads into the drains, like the street drains. This boat is getting it. Every time I watch this part, I want to do this.
Yeah, I was just thinking, like, that's a lot of water going down the road, like, the drain. It's not even raining that hard, is it?
No, but in the book it explains that the town is flooded. So, even though the rain has kind of ebbed, it's still draining from other places.
Yeah, I can see that. That's like the road by me that's always closed.
Yeah, I know exactly what road you're talking about. For the longest time, I didn't know a road was there.
Yeah, even Cruz was like, why is there a stop sign in the river?
Yeah.
I'm like, that's not a river.
So his boat goes down the storm drain. My only complaint here is he had plenty of time to grab that boat. You knew where it was going.
Yeah.
But he starts freaking out a little bit, and he's looking down. He decides he can't get it. It's gone. And he starts to walk away, and that's when Pennywise appears. He says something to the effect of, "Hey, Georgie, do you want a balloon?" Georgie says, "My dad says I'm not allowed to talk to strangers." Pennywise says, "Well, your dad, he's a smart man. It's a good thing he told you that, but I'm Pennywise the clown. You're Georgie, so we're not strangers anymore." That kind of creeped me out, because, like, anybody could kind of trick a kid into that.
Yep.
So that's a mental note for my son as he ages. I'm afraid that I'm going to get the book and the movie mixed up, because as I was watching the movie, other images from the book kept popping in. But I'm fairly certain in the movie, he tells him, we got corn dogs and cotton candy and stuff down here.
Yeah.
Can't you smell it? Georgie can. He can smell all of the just circus smells. He hears circus music. So he tells him, come down here. Do you want a balloon? And Georgie says, "Does it float?" And Pennywise says, "Oh yes, they float. Down here they all float." So he still is kind of hesitant. He can sense that something's off. He starts to decline, and Pennywise shows him the boat. That's all that he wants, is this boat that his brother made him. So that is what prompts Georgie to reach into the storm drain, and you see Pennywise's eyes go yellow, and his teeth just turn razor sharp. He bites Georgie's arm off. Georgie doesn't make it. So this leads into Georgie's funeral. You see all of the kids and Bill's parents gathered around the coffin. It flashes forward a little bit. Bill walks into Georgie's room. Georgie has this photo album just full of random old photos. He liked to collect photos. The book comes off of the shelf. The pages start flipping like crazy, and it flips open to a picture of Georgie. This picture winks, like Harry Potter style. This is the 1960s, so it flips Bill out. The book flips even more, comes back to the photo, and blood starts coming out of the pages and onto the floor. He starts yelling for his parents. His parents come in. They see the book. They kind of get on to Bill for being in the room, and the mom just picks the book up, puts it back on the shelf. She's got blood all over her hands. I'm pretty sure she even touches her face. And this is when Bill starts to realize, okay, something is really wrong here. They don't see the blood. And this isn't the last time that this happens. We're then introduced to Ben Hanscom. He is an adorable little chubby boy, and I'm going to call it chubby because I don't think that kid is that big.
I don't either.
I think that he's husky. He looks like a young football player is what he looks like.
Yeah.
He's new in town. He's standing in front of the class. He's introducing himself. You see him lock eyes with Beverly Marsh, who he ends up having a crush on. He also makes eye contact with Henry Bowers, who is just a certified dick.
Oh my god. Yeah.
We see all of the kids walking out of the school. Ben meets up with Beverly. You catch on pretty quick that even though Beverly is cute, she's not really popular because we see two little blonde girls come up and make some comment to her. I can't even remember what it was. It was dumb. She's just really nice to Ben. She can tell that Ben's a little anxious, and so she's nice to him. She says, it was nice to meet you, and she walks away. Ben starts walking home, and he's saying all of these cute things about Beverly because he's smitten right away. And this is where you see Henry Bowers and his goons, that's what I'm going to call them. They just jump him.
One of them reminds me of Squiggy.
Yeah, I think it's Henry.
Except for an a-hole version of Squiggy.
Yeah, he's got the ducktail hairdo. They pin him against a fence, and this isn't like any bullying that I ever experienced, thank God, because this kid has a damn switchblade.
Yeah, that's pretty intense.
Yeah. He pulls the switchblade and he holds it to Ben's stomach. His friends are immediately like, whoa, this is too much. We don't really want involved in this. But, I mean, they're afraid of him too. The kid's got a switchblade.
Yeah.
So they hold on to Ben. Ben ends up getting away by leaning back on the fence and throwing his foot up, and he kind of pushes Henry back with his foot. In the book, there's more damage done because Henry actually carves an H into his stomach.
I think that's the same with the new one.
Yeah, I think so. Ben gets down into the Barrens, is what it's called. There's like a little creek bed, river bed, whatever. I want to say a creek bed because it's not big enough to look like a river, but it also looks bigger than a lot of the creeks that I've been around, so I don't really know what it is.
Yeah.
Ben is hiding in a storm drain, and Henry and his goons run down, and they see Bill and Eddie Kasprek down. They're building a dam. They ask if they've seen a fat kid running through. They say they haven't, but I guess they moved on pretty quick because they just go over and start kicking the dam down. The young kids are disappointed. Eddie gets knocked backwards. Eddie is asthmatic, so it immediately sends him into an asthma attack. Henry and the goons leave. Ben comes out of the storm drain, walks over, asks if he can help, and Bill says, yeah, can you stay here with my friend while I go get his medicine? He jumps on his bike. Bike is Silver. That's what he named the bike, after the Lone Ranger's horse. He goes to the drugstore in just a frenzy. His friend's about to die. By the time he gets back, though, Eddie and Ben are just walking nonchalantly. It was like, I thought that this was gonna be, I know that it's not an asthma attack, but like a My Girl type of scene where this kid dies.
That movie's so sad.
Yeah. But you find out later on why he was able to get by without his inhaler. That doesn't keep him from sucking on it as soon as Bill hands it to him, though.
He has Munchausen's by proxy.
Yeah, no doubt. So Ben starts giving them advice on how to build a better dam. And it's really good advice. So Bill says, you know what, why don't we build the dam? And Ben's like, yeah, sure, that sounds good. We also see that Ben doesn't have the best home life. He and his mom are living with his aunt and cousin. His cousin's kind of a little dick. His aunt's really no better, because all Ben does is kind of stand up for himself, and the aunt is like, okay, I'm letting you live here, your son can't be acting that way. So his mom has a conversation with him out on the porch, explaining why they need to live there because his father passed away. You know, they just don't have the money, and they don't want to be on welfare. He says, I hate it here, and he speeds off. He goes back down into the barrens. This is where he thinks he sees his dad standing with a bunch of balloons. It ends up, it is not his dad. It is Pennywise, and then it's a skeleton. So this is the second kid in the group who has seen something weird, paranormal, whatever you want to call it. I do think that, in my opinion, Ben is the cutest kid out of the group.
Yeah, he's pretty cute. I think the little one's cute, too.
Yeah. I don't really know what it is about that kid. I just thought, like, looking at him, okay, everybody makes fun of him because he's fat, but he's very cute.
It's like on Saved by the Bell when they were making fat jokes about that kid that wasn't fat.
Yeah. And all the kids are cute.
Yeah.
We go back to Beverly Marsh. She has received a postcard with a poem on it. The poem is something like,
Your hair is January embers.
It's something about January embers, my heart burns there too. It's a haiku. I can't remember the entire thing. Yeah, it's a love poem that Ben has written to her. She thinks that it's Bill the entire time, which I think Ben handles it pretty well.
Yeah.
So she gets this, and we meet her father. Her father's very
He's a piece
concerned.
of garbage.
Yeah, he is. And he's very concerned that she's getting love letters from a boy, and he tells her, you know, I worry about you, Bevy. I worry about you a lot. It just pisses me off. I can't get past it. Like, she's just a little kid.
Mm-hmm.
So this prompts an argument between she and her dad. I don't know in the movie. Does he hit her in the movie?
Yes.
Okay. Her dad hits her, and she runs off. Ben is watching this whole thing go down because he just put the postcard out for her to find. And he follows her and asks her if she's okay. At first, she's kind of like, you're a creep. Why are you doing that? Why are you sneaking up on me? And he said, I'm sorry, I'm just checking on you. And he invites her to go down to the Barrens. Bill and Eddie are already down there. They decide Beverly can join them in building the dam. As they're building the dam, we are introduced to Richie Tozier and Stanley Urich. I love Seth Green. I can't get past it.
I know, I do too.
He did very good in this role. The first time I watched this, when he came on the screen, I thought he looked so different. I was really hesitant. I was like, is that Seth Green? But as soon as he starts talking and making his facial expressions, you know it's him.
I was like in love with him in the 90s.
Yeah. The Austin Powers movie where he had blue hair.
Yeah, I liked him in Can't Hardly Wait.
Yes. Those yellow goggles.
Yeah.
So we see 6 of the friends make their connection right away down here in the Barrens. They all are having a good time building this dam when a police officer shows up and starts screaming at them for flooding everything.
This was one of my favorite parts that I took notes on.
Yeah.
Because he comes down there and he's like, are you guys fixing to backflood all the drains in town? And then, like, after a second, he's just like, okay, well, make sure you guys stay together all the time. Don't separate. But it's like, okay, so you're not mad at them anymore? They're causing a problem.
It was a pretty big problem, but I guess when you're dealing with a child killer somewhere, then maybe he's just like, fix it and move on. So the next scene that we see a group together is they're all at the movie theater, and they're watching this old movie, a werewolf movie. Richie is very intrigued by it. He loves all of these scary movies. During one of the scenes, he accidentally kicks a bag of popcorn down on, off the ledge, down on the people below, and it just so happens that the people below are Henry Bowers and his goons. They hop out of there real fast. Henry doesn't forget it, because the next scene, they're in school, and Henry walks up to Richie and he confronts him. He knocks his lunch tray into his shirt. I can't remember exactly what Richie does, but Henry Bowers ends up falling backwards. It's this big kerfuffle.
Kerfuffle.
A teacher breaks it up and tells Richie, go down to the basement and get Mr. Marsh, because Beverly's dad is the janitor there. So he goes down to the basement. Mr. Marsh is not in his office, so he goes into, like, the boiler room to try to find him. He hears someone in the back. Out steps this werewolf with a varsity jacket on, just like the one in the movie. Richie keeps telling himself, this isn't real, this isn't real, this isn't real. The varsity jacket starts having orange pom-poms on it, and he turns into Pennywise. Richie runs upstairs frantically and starts screaming that there's a werewolf. There's a werewolf down in the basement, and everyone laughs at him, except for his group of friends who just make eye contact with each other because they're starting to put together that there's a lot happening to all of them. I want to say that the werewolf makeup was really cheesy, but I can also kind of see where it was cheesy on purpose because it was supposed to fit that style of movie.
Yeah, it kind of reminded me of a Goosebumps episode.
Yeah, well, and that's what I just keep thinking is it's what Richie pictures in his mind because that's the werewolf he saw in the movie. So I don't think that it was the creators of it trying to cut corners and budget costs. I think it was supposed to look like that werewolf. This is where we are introduced to Mike Hanlon. He's a young African-American boy in a classroom full of white children. So you kind of get the feeling right away that he's going to have a rough go, if you're thinking in terms of 1960s. He is talking about the history of dairy, and he's really into it. You can tell, he loves this stuff. He brings up the fact that 200 and some settlers have disappeared at one point in Derry, and nobody knew where they went. The teacher cuts him off and tells him, thank you for that dive into Derry history, even though the ending was kind of morbid. School lets out. He's walking down the street. Henry and his goons corner him. They take his book, and they try to put a firecracker or a cherry bomb, whatever, in his pocket. Luckily, a store clerk comes out and tells them to knock it off. They don't, but it's enough for Mike to grab his book and make a run for it. Kelly, I know that you made a note on this part as well.
Yeah, I can't believe they said the N-word.
Yeah. It makes you very uncomfortable, and in the book, it's a lot worse. They make gay slurs, racial slurs, Jewish slurs. It's really bad.
Yeah, like, I know it was set in, what did you say, the 60s?
Right.
But it came out in the 90s.
Right.
I thought we were past that.
Apparently they were trying to make it true to the time.
I guess. I could have done without that.
Yeah, me too.
And I'm white, so I'm sure it offended a lot of people.
Yeah. So he takes off running. He ends up running into the stone quarry where other 6 outcasts are sitting on a train car. This poor kid, he gets to them and asks for help, and he just collapses because he's ran so far. Like, he knows that this is more than just getting beat up. This kid is, like, out to get him. So he asks for help. The other kids immediately are like, yeah, sure. And they grab a bunch of rocks. So when Henry and his friends come in, they're ready. Henry tries to make a deal with them and says, if you give him to me, I'll let you go for now. Because he has beef with everybody there. They say no deal. And they start throwing rocks at him. It turns into this big rock fight. Henry ends up hitting Beverly with a rock. Ben loses it and just takes off after Henry. And this is what I'm saying. Like, he looks like a little football player. He just tackles him.
Yeah. I can't imagine getting hit with a rock.
No. Like,
you think about how bad it hurts to get hit with a snowball.
I know. I cringed that whole scene.
I'm like, is this like a thing that people did? A rock fight? What is going on?
I don't know, but they really could have killed someone.
Yeah.
Those rocks were big.
Yeah, they were.
So the other kids all retreat besides Henry. These 6 kids approach, and Bill says, you're gonna leave, or the 6 of us we can put you in the hospital. So Mike steps up and he says 7. Henry says, I'm gonna kill you all. And he says it multiple times, so Richie tells him to get some new material. This is where Bill asks Mike if he wants to be part of the club. And he says, yeah, what club is it? And Beverly says, the Losers Club.
I thought that was funny.
Yeah, I like that they call themselves that. They start to have conversations about everything that they have witnessed. Bill saw the picture start to bleed and wink at him. Richie's seen the werewolf. Ben saw the skeleton. Eddie says he just saw the clown. Stanley won't say what he saw. Beverly, which I think we might have skipped this part, but she had someone talking to her through the drain. It was the voice of one of the dead children, and a balloon came up through the drain and popped. And when it popped, blood just went everywhere. And it was the same type of reaction from her father that Bill's parents had. He didn't see any of it. He stuck his hand right in the blood, and he didn't see any of it. She thought she was going crazy, so she called some of the other kids over, and they could see it too. So she knows that, everyone is seeing this.
In the newer one, this scene is disgusting.
Yeah,
it's so
really
gory.
Bad. The thing about that scene that kind of, I think, is creative, and I don't know if it was on purpose or not, and I'm kind of getting ahead of myself, but when her dad asks her, what was it? She says a spider.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
I feel like, yeah, okay, so she was technically right.
Yeah.
So Mike is hearing all of this, and he says, you know what? This clown that you guys keep talking about, my dad has this old book full of all kinds of old pictures from Derry. He collects them, and I've seen this clown that you're talking about. So he goes and he gets his book. He starts flipping through the pages. He shows them all. You see cartoon drawings of this clown at every disaster in the town's history. There's like a building, or like slightly before. There was a building that caught on fire. There was an instant where a bunch of kids were all killed. And then we turn to a page that is just a street. It's just a picture of a street in Derry. All of a sudden, the horses start moving. The people start walking. And you hear carnival music. And you see Pennywise doing cartwheels down the street. And he really just looks like a clown from that time period.
I feel bad for real clowns.
Yeah.
Because they have a bad reputation.
I agree, because he really isn't, like, the new Pennywise is made to look creepy with his makeup and everything.
Mm-hmm.
The old Pennywise just looks like a clown. He doesn't have, like, the sharp lines or anything like that in his face paint. They're rounded. He's got the typical hair, the typical suit. It just, I don't know. It's, maybe that makes it creepier.
I don't know. I think he's pretty funny.
So the kids start to freak out because not only do they see Pennywise, but this picture's moving. He's getting closer and closer. He gets right up to the frame, and he says, I'm gonna kill you all. And he kind of points his hand, and all of a sudden his hand comes out of the book. Stan slams the book shut and pushes it away. He covers his ears, and he keeps saying, it's not true, no, no, no. And, they have to tell him, yes, this is actually happening. This poor kid is in complete denial, but if you read the book, you get a little more insight into this, because he says in the book, it's not really fear that he's feeling. He feels offended. And what he means by that is you have your reasoning, and you have your religion, and you have things that you know are real and rational, and when anything happens outside of that, it offends him. It forces him to think about how maybe his religion and his concept of the real world means nothing. As a kid, it would just scare me.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel all the time. Like, what is life? Why are we doing this? Is it like that?
Yeah, pretty much. Like, what is the point in all of this if nothing is real?
Yeah, I get that.
So, that's why he's the one that's the most hesitant of the group. Bill gets really emotional here. He starts crying. He's talking about Georgie and how Georgie died, and he wants to kill this thing. and he asks them, really he begs them to help him, and they all say that they will. They decide that the best way to do this is to take silver dollars, melt them down into slugs, and Bev is going to use a slingshot to shoot this thing and kill it. There's no question that this is going to work. Every horror movie ever says that silver kills the monster, so they know this is going to work.
I thought they used somebody's mom's earrings.
Oh, maybe they do in the movie. In the book, they melt it down. I knew this was going to happen, the back and forth. But, yeah, when he holds out...
I mean, it's the same point.
Yeah, when he holds out his hands, though, you're right. It does look like there's some type of design on it, so it could be an earring. But it's silver, so they're gonna kill this thing with silver. These little badasses decide they're going down into the sewer to kill this thing. I cannot imagine this at that age. Like myself, there's no way in hell.
No,
Nope.
I wouldn't go down there. No, thank you. We gotta write our song.
As our friend Rachel at Skeptical Skeptics would say, oh, I don't like that.
Yeah. I've caught myself saying that a lot to Chad because he's always talking about scary stuff. And he asked me about that shirt. He's like, where'd you get that? What's that mean?
You wouldn't understand.
Yeah.
So they go down into the sewers. Little do they know that Henry and his goons are following them because he's still pissed about the rock fight. They go down there. Henry jumps Stan with one of his friends. Something really bad is about to go down when you start seeing lights come through one of the sewer drains. You don't really see what it is, but something grabs this kid and pulls him into the drain. Like, folds him in half and pulls him into the drain. What cracked me up about this scene is as I was watching it, I was like, oh god, like, it just folded that kid right in half. But honestly, the size of that sewer drain, like, I'm sure there are gymnasts who could actually do that and it wouldn't hurt them at all. It's just leaning forward and putting your fingers past your feet. That's all that it would have been. But it looked painful to me nonetheless.
I mean, yeah, it definitely would have killed us.
Yeah. So this light affected Henry so much that his hair just turns white and he just sits there. He's like comatose. Stan takes off running. He finds the other kids and they're at this weird... I really want to know if sewers are actually this intricate.
There's only one way to find out, and we're not going down there.
No, thank you. But I'm intrigued by it because, like, there are a bunch of tunnels, and I know that people go down there and work on them, but, like, this area is really cool. It's like the center of the sewers, and there's bricks that go out. It's really pretty for being a sewer, I guess. You see things immediately start to play with these kids. Bill starts hearing Georgie. Richie has claws that come up and grab him around the neck. Stan is just chanting his Eagle Scout, or I think that's what it is, the Eagle Scout motto.
Yeah.
Bev hears her dad. I can't remember what Eddie and Mike hear, if anything, but they're all affected by this. They start calling out Pennywise, and they tell him to show himself. He does, and I think it's Mike. He gets Mike up against the wall. They start yelling at Bev to shoot at him. She shoots the first time and misses. So while she's reloading, Eddie gets Mike back by taking his inhaler and spraying it in the clown's face. He says that it's battery acid or something.
Yeah, I did not really get that.
Yeah.
Like, just because he said that, the clown's gonna believe that?
This is the only thing that I can think. Is that if the kids believe it enough, it happens. Like, that's how it is able to affect these kids. That's why the parents don't see anything, is because they don't believe it. But because the kids believe it, they see it. So I'm assuming that Eddie, because at this point he knows that it's not actually, I mean, they tell him that it's water and something else, but he knows it's not actually asthma medication, so hell, he could guess it's anything that they're putting in there. But yeah, Pennywise's face starts to slightly melt, and this gives Bev enough time to load the weapon, shoot, and she hits him in the head. You see this big thing of light come out of his head. He jumps down into the sewer drain. Bill wants to go down, which I don't even know that that's possible, that they could go down any farther. But he says it's not dead. Everyone else says it could be dead. We don't know, but, you know, we can't do anything more. So they come back up. They all make a pact that if it is not dead, and it ever comes back, that they will all meet and do this again and kill it once and for all. This is where we go into the adults. Bill is now a novelist. He writes horror books. I think that he's supposed to be like a stand-in for Stephen King, honestly. Like,
Can I just say a comment?
sure, it's probably the same thing I'm gonna say.
No, it's not.
Oh, okay.
I'm sure it's not. I just think it's so funny in the Goosebumps movie when R.L. Stein's character, who's played by Jack Black, is like, let me tell you something about Steve King. Like, he doesn't call him Stephen King. He says, let me tell you something about Steve.
That's true.
And it's so funny. Have you seen that movie?
Yeah. I thought you were gonna comment on Bill's hair.
No. I mean, I don't know what's up with his hair either, but I just think it's hilarious that everybody in the world calls Stephen King Stephen King.
Mm-hmm.
And Jack Black on Goosebumps playing R.L. Stein is like, let me tell you something about Steve. Because apparently R.L. Stein sold more books than Stephen King or something.
Oh, I kind of believe that. But he also was able to pump out more books than Stephen King. R.L. Stein's books were like 40 pages long.
Right.
Stephen King's is God knows how long.
There's a lot more young adult readers than adult readers
True.
as well, I would think. I don't know. I didn't fact check that. That's just what my brain says.
Yeah, I need to go on Amazon and see if there's like a R.L. Stein bundle of books. Because I love those.
I know. I wish I still had all of them.
Yeah, I was reading The Beast of the East on a family vacation, and my dad was playing the Eagles Hotel California, and
oh my gosh.
I pictured those things that were on the cover, because it says, you know, they stab him with their steely knives, but they just can't kill the beast.
Yeah.
That's all I could picture was this, like, blue and purple thing that's on the cover. Anyway, that was a tangent.
Hey, remember Animorphs?
Yes.
I'm just kidding.
I do, though.
I do too.
Yeah, Bill is married to an actress who is starring in one of the films that's based on one of his books. The reason I say that I think he's a stand-in for Stephen King is because when he comes back to Derry and he's in the library, there's like a list of all of his books. And I can't remember what the one is that I think is supposed to be Salem's Lot, but I do remember one of them was called The Glowing. I just kept thinking about The Shining.
Yeah.
So I think that all of those books are like plays on words that match one of his other novels. He gets a phone call from Mike. He has completely forgotten about Georgie, so they all moved out of Derry and they've forgotten everything. Mike calling them is what prompts them to remember, but they're only remembering bits at a time as the movie progresses. You know, they're getting more and more information. We see Ben, well, before we get to that, Bill also starts to stutter again. So as an adult, he has broken free of his stutter, but as soon as Mike calls, he starts to stutter again. We see Ben Hanscom. He's in a limousine with a woman. He has an award, an architecture award. They're about to get frisky. They go into his studio. He gets a phone call. Again, it's Mike. He says, yeah, Mike, I'll be there. And he sends the woman away. We go to Beverly, who is married to a real certifiable asshole.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
So, yeah, and Pennywise says it best. She picked a man just like her dad.
Mm-hmm.
He gets mad at her, first of all, because they're at their company. So Beverly runs a fashion company. Her husband works there too. She makes some kind of decision for him regarding a meeting, and it pisses him off. You just kind of see a little bit of it here.
She says that she'll take that phone call from, I think it's from Mike.
You're right.
Because they still have time before their meeting.
Mm-hmm.
And he gets mad about that.
So they go to their meeting and they apparently make the sale because he ends up getting like champagne or something. They have champagne and they're in bed, and I'm assuming they just had sex and they're drinking champagne. That seems like a mess waiting to happen, but to each their own. When he gets up to go refill their champagne, this is when she gets the phone call, and she actually answers it. It's Mike. He comes back in, and she's packing. She's ready to go. He tells her, "You're not leaving." She says, yeah, I am. It comes to blows. She wins. She hits him in the head with an ashtray or something, or a perfume bottle. He falls back, and she leaves. I mean, good for her, but I hate seeing someone get hit in the head with something. I just cringe every time.
He deserved it.
He did, and Henry deserved it in the rock quarry, but I still cringed.
Yeah, that's true.
We see Eddie Casbrack. He is living at home with his mom. He got the phone call and he's packing up his entire medicine cabinet. He's headed out the door as mom is begging him not to go. Of course he has to go. He gets into the car. He apparently owns this driving business where they drive celebrities because he asks his driver if he'll be okay to drive Pacino, and he says yes. We see Richie Tozier. He is a comedian now, no surprise. He seems to be the one affected the most by this news. He gets the call from Mike, and he starts to have a flashback of the werewolf thing. Like, he's physically ill. He runs to the toilet and throws up. But he's still planning on going. We see Stanley Uris. He gets the phone call. He says, okay, yeah, hangs up. His wife asks him who it is. He says it was nobody. He's gonna go upstairs and take a bath. The wife later comes up to check on him, opens the door, and Stan has slit his wrists. In his blood, on the bathtub wall, wrote "It." I cannot imagine the horror of walking in and finding your significant other in that way.
No, me either.
Like, there are numerous reasons why I beg people not to do something like this to themselves. But one of the reasons is don't make someone else find you in that position. That fucks with their lives.
Yeah.
So this is where we see all of them making their way back to the town. We see Bill. He comes into town. He goes to Georgie's grave immediately because he feels so much guilt for having forgotten him. When he's there, he hears something and he turns. It's Pennywise. He is digging graves. And he tells Bill, and I don't know why, this is probably my favorite scene with Pennywise. He tells Bill, just digging some graves here. You can pick any one you want, except the one there on the end. That one's taken. Because, Stan is dead. Nobody knows that yet, but that's his way of telling them. Richie is driving in. First of all, he sees on the marquee outside of the movie theater that it has his birth year, and then it has the current year as if he's dead.
Yeah, that creeped me out.
Yeah, that freaked him out. He goes to the library looking for Mike. When he gets there, Mike isn't there. He says, it's fine, I'll wait. Pennywise is there. He's up in the balcony, and he just fucks with Richie. This is also one of the funniest scenes.
Yeah, we basically agreed that this was the best scene of the movie.
Yeah. So, he has balloons that float down and pop. Blood is just everywhere. It cracks me up. There's one old man reading a book that the balloon pops on. And this guy, he had to have been a good actor because he barely reacted to that. Richie starts freaking out, and so he walks up to the librarian. He's talking to her. He's saying, I'm not gonna wait. Just tell him I was here. I'm gonna leave. And during all of this, Pennywise is up in the balcony. He's doing the whole, hey, do you have Prince Albert in a can? Well, you better let the poor guy out. He's got one of the noisemakers that he's doing. And I don't know, Tim Curry in this scene, he was perfect.
Yeah, and it's Richie, right?
Yeah.
Richie is like screaming at that librarian to talk over him, but she can't hear Pennywise, so she's just like, why is this guy screaming at me?
Yeah, and he's also making faces because he thinks he's got blood on his face, and he doesn't, so yeah. It was just, the whole scene was great.
Hey, Brittany.
Yeah.
Is your refrigerator running?
Oh my god.
You better catch it before it gets away.
Does he say that to Bev?
I don't know who he says it to, but he says it at some point in the movie, and I thought it was hilarious.
I can't remember if it's here or it's when you get to the Bev scene as she's leaving, but yes, it's just too good. We see Ben, he's on his way into town. He has to stop at what looks like the fence where he fell through, but he's going down into the Barrens. He kind of gets a glimpse of the past because things haven't changed much. These bullies are chasing this fat kid down the hill. This kid falls. It's kind of strange to me, though, because he doesn't interfere. The kid just falls and the bullies leave. He asks the kid if he's okay. He says yeah, but he pulls his pants leg up and he's got a scrape. Ben does something that I don't think is sanitary at all. He dips his hanky into the creek and rubs the creek water on the guy's scraped knee.
Yeah, that's disgusting.
It's like, no, don't do that. And then, on top of it, he wraps the damn hanky around the scraped knee. You should have just done that to begin with, if the hanky had not been used.
Yeah, the whole thing is not sanitary.
Yeah, don't like it. We see Beverly. She's come back home, like her house home. She rings the buzzer that says Marsh. An old lady answers the door and says, she's really sorry, but Mr. Marsh had passed away and she was living in that apartment now, and invites her in for tea. And they sit there for a while and they talk until Beverly starts to notice that it's not tea in her cup, it's like sludge. And then when she looks up, she notices that the lady is not as pretty as she was, or like
sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Her teeth start turning colors. She just looks unkempt.
She's slurping her tea.
Yeah.
Did you say that already?
No. It's just a really disturbing scene. I think that this scene got to me.
Yeah, it was pretty gross.
Yeah. So the woman comes after Bev. She gets out of the door. When she turns back around, she sees that the house is completely boarded up. Pennywise is there on the porch. I think that this is where he says the refrigerator line.
Probably.
And a balloon floats towards her feet.
That really creeped me out. I know the whole movie, it's like a psychological thriller because none of it's real, but that part really creeped me out, that the house was all boarded up and, no one lived there.
Yeah, she was in there. Mm-hmm. How did she even get in the door? It's like, it had to have completely been in her mind.
Yeah.
I forgot to mention also, when Ben was leaving the Barrens, he saw Pennywise along the road. He was holding a bunch of balloons, and when Ben turned around, there was a balloon floating in the car with him. And I can't remember what it said, but it said something like, "Turn back now."
Oh, yeah.
Bill goes to Mike's home, which he lives in Poor Town now, the poor guy, but, he's just a small-town librarian. He does say that at least his house is paid off, so that's good. Mike has silver. He found him at a pawn shop. He tells Bill, the weird thing is, it has a flat tire, and before I saw the bike, something prompted me to buy this bicycle tire repair kit. That is weird. I don't like it.
Yeah, it is weird.
Anything like that, like premonition type stuff, freaks me out. But they fix the bike, they're riding it around, having a good time. They decide they're gonna put cards in the spokes, and they have bicycle cards. They take it out, they drop all of the cards, and when they drop all of the cards, 2 cards are face up. They're the ace of spades, and there's 2 of them. That shouldn't be in a deck. But also, the back of the cards have Pennywise on them. They all decide they're gonna meet at this Chinese restaurant, which I watched this again today. I've watched it more than once to prep for this, but it really made me want Chinese food, and I didn't get it.
We went to Chinese last night.
I'm jealous.
Sorry.
They're having a good time. Bev kisses them all.
Okay, Bev, makes out with Bill.
Yeah.
What in the world? He's married.
I know.
Well, she's married. They're all married, right? Except for Ben?
No. I think Bill and Bev are the only ones that are.
Oh. So that makes sense that they would.
Yeah. Because Eddie lives with his mom. Mike lives by himself. Ben had a date. Mike lives alone. Did I say that?
Yeah, okay. I don't think that... Wait, Ben... Yeah, okay. Sorry.
Oh, Richie.
Yeah, but there. Bill is the one she kissed all of them, but she, made out with
I know,
Bill.
yeah.
And I'm like, dude, really?
I know, and John Ritter is sitting right there. Why are you kissing the dude with the ponytail?
I know, that's gross.
Anyway, they're having a good time. They get their fortune cookies, and all this weird shit starts happening. Richie's fortune cookie has a fucking eyeball in it. Ben's...
That was disgusting.
Ben's has claws coming out of it. One of them has a spider, which, again, spider. It's just, it's disgusting. The sad thing is, the woman comes and she's like, is everything okay? And it's apparent she doesn't see any of this. So they're just with these freaked out looks on their faces. Yeah, everything's fine. Can we just get the bill? So they end up going back to, like, they rented out this hotel. I don't know. It was a small town. Hotel, motel, whatever it's called.
Holiday Inn?
Yeah. They've decided that they cannot separate from one another because it's just too risky. They're having conversations. More and more stuff is coming back to them, but we've touched on it all because we did the childhood thing first. Bev is cold, so she asks Ben to go get her shawl or whatever to cover her up. Eddie needs something too, and Mike is going upstairs, so they all go together. But, like, they're all supposed to stay together, but they go into rooms separately. They should have just stayed together.
Yeah, I didn't understand that.
Ben goes into a room to get Bev's shawl. We see Bev in the room with him. She tells him, I know that you wrote me that poem. I know it was you. They start kissing. Kelly, you said that this was a very weird way of kissing.
Yeah, like, at first they were kissing normal, and then it just got weirder and weirder, and I was like, why are they kissing like that? And then they revealed that it was the clown, and I was like, oh, that makes sense.
This was one of my favorite lines because when Ben looks in the mirror, he sees that he has the clown's makeup on his face. He looks and sees Pennywise, and Pennywise says, "Kiss me, fat boy." It turns out that Pennywise has had a discussion with Henry Bowers, who is in a mental institution. He talks to him through the moon, and he tells him, I'm gonna need you. We have to get these guys back. I can't touch them in the way that I need to because they're somewhat adults, so they don't wholly believe anymore. He also sends him a message by sending one of his friends to him, and he's like under his bunk or something. He comes out and he tells Henry, you don't have to talk, I can read your mind, that way we don't alert anybody. I'm gonna get you out of here. So he pushes Henry down the corridor. This guard sees him and comes out. When he starts to get on Henry, Pennywise, or it's a clown costume, but it has the head of a dog, and the dog mauls the guy. This part really bothered me, because in the book, it's supposed to be a Doberman Pinscher. I swear to you, it looks like the head of a black pug.
Yeah, I thought it looked like a puppy.
Yeah, it's not a scary dog at all. It's ridiculous. And this guy screams like it's the scariest fucking thing he's ever seen in his life. I'd have been like, oh, a puppy in a clown suit. But he escapes, and that is who is waiting for Mike in his room. And he pulls a knife and he stabs him. Mike is fighting Henry. He's fighting for his life. When Ben and Eddie finally come running, Mike ends up stabbing Henry and killing him. But Mike is really badly hurt. So they scoop him up and they throw him in Richie's car, and every single person loads into Richie's car and gets to the hospital. Mike ends up surviving, so he's okay, but he can't make the trip. So they're down 2 people. Luckily, Mike went down into the sewer and got the silver slugs or earrings, whatever it is we're deciding that they are.
Okay, so in my notes, I wrote that Bill was holding the silver earrings in his hand, and he said to Mike, but I thought the old lady dropped them into the ocean at the end of the movie. And Mike says, I went down and got them for you.
Okay.
Which in reality is not what he said, but
right.
He did say he went down in the sewer and got them.
Right. So we got a little bit of a Titanic reference and a Britney Spears reference.
Yeah. It's Britney, bitch.
Yeah, so they decide they're gonna have to go now before another person is taken out of the equation. Richie doesn't want to go at all. He's just not there for it. But he does end up going. There's also a scene outside of the hospital where Ben and Bev do kiss. Ben freaks out because he doesn't know if it's actually her. I gotta say, I don't blame him.
Yeah.
So they all head down into the sewers. And again, there's a bunch of stuff happening. I think that the creepiest part for me was probably when the boat came floating. Like, it floated right up to Bill, the little newspaper boat. And you see Georgie, and he's blaming Bill for killing him. I completely forgot that Bill's wife comes into town and Pennywise gets her. And Bill finds her purse or something in the sewer, and he starts to lose it, and they snap him out of that. And they tell him, you can't quit now, because if she's down here somewhere, you gotta find her. Then he sees the boat. Then he sees Georgie. Georgie's telling him how it's his fault, and all of his friends have to snap him out of that as well and tell him, you know, he's not real. You know that. You know he's not real. So he snaps out of that. He gets the bright idea that if he sets the boat back down, it will lead him to where he needs to go. So he sets the boat down. The boat goes back into the sewer, and it brings them to this little miniature door with skulls all around it. So I guess they found the right place. They go in, and they see all of these people hanging from webs. And Bill sees his wife. So he's trying to get her down, and as he's getting her down, this huge spider comes out. And it's a very ridiculous looking spider, but I'm going to give them credit because it is the 90s and it is television. So they don't have like the big movie budget.
Yeah, I got confused.
Yeah, I don't like the ending of this book, movie, whatever. I just don't like the whole spider story of it.
Yeah, I thought I was watching Alien for a second.
Yeah, you got a good point. It is kind of like that. The thing shines its lights. Oh, you know what? I skipped over a part where they find Stan's head in the refrigerator.
Gross.
Yeah, that's how they find out that Stan is dead. But also, this is where they come into this realization that it affected Stan more because he saw those lights. And he kept making comments about he looked into its deadlights. So that's what you're seeing when this spider comes out. It has these lights in its stomach, and it's shining. Bill goes up to confront it, but he gets caught in them and just freezes. Richie comes up to help Bill, and he does the same. Bev is trying to find the slugs. She shot and missed. Eddie is the only one brave enough. Well, really, he's the only one there. But he makes himself brave enough, and he confronts it with his inhaler. It raises up, and Bev shoots it. But when it raises up, it also grabs Eddie, and Eddie falls to the floor when it's hit. And it's really a sad moment because just before Eddie's talking to them about why he was never in a relationship because he didn't feel like he could have sex with anybody unless he loved them, and he never loved anybody the way that he loved this group of friends. So you have that, and then you just see Eddie die in these people's arms. This pisses them off enough, though, to attack the spider, and they just chase it into this cave and kick the shit out of its stomach, and they're, like, ripping its heart out. That was pretty gross.
Yeah.
They just hold it above their heads, and there's blood dripping everywhere. They come back out of the cave after killing it. All of the people that were hanging start to lower. Bill gets his wife. They head out of the sewers. This is where you have the voiceover from Mike. So Mike is making a journal because he knows he's going to forget all of this. The entire movie is basically narrated by Mike. He talks about how Ben and Bev, they went off together. They also broke another curse because they ended up getting pregnant because that was part of the curse. None of them could have kids. Richie went back home. Of course, Eddie died. Mike was going to be okay. Bill stayed in Derry for a while with his wife. She was still comatose, but he brings her back by putting her on his bike and going down the steepest hill in the city.
And almost killing both of them?
Yeah, it was...
That was stupid.
Yeah, I don't quite... And I haven't finished the book, so maybe the book gives a little more insight, but it was really weird. I did not like it. But that is the end of the movie, and even though I did not enjoy the ending, I did enjoy the ride that the movie took you on.
Yeah, I'll give it that.
I mean, it was fun. It was a fun watch.
It was entertaining. It was funny. I definitely did not expect the ending.
Right.
But I did not like it. I literally wrote in my notes, so the clown is a spider?
Right. But we did get to see Seth Green.
Cool. Yeah, that's true.
In 1957, Laika became the first animal to orbit Earth. What kind of animal was Laika?
What is the only team in the Big Four North American sports leagues which shares its name with one of the Avengers?
And here's one more question for you. Are you the type of person who enjoys playing trivia games, learning new things, and having a bit of fun along the way?
If you are, or if you just want to find out the answers to those other questions, then our podcast, Quiz and Hers, might be right up your alley.
Each week, one of us writes new trivia questions for the other person, covering everything from science to history to pop culture to sports.
And every question in a game relates to some theme, like Game of Thrones,
Internet memes,
sandwiches,
or animals in space.
Some of the themes make more sense than others.
So if you like trivia, learning, or real couples testing each other's knowledge and patience, check out our podcast, Quiz and Hers, part of the Big Heads Media Podcast Network.
Quiz and Hers, the trivia podcast where we test each other's knowledge and the strength of our relationship.
So, going into our random facts section, I got these facts from ScreenRant.com and TheWrap.com. The first one I have is the great George Romero collaborated with Stephen King on a few projects, including The Dark Half and the beloved anthology film Creepshow. He also developed a big screen adaptation of The Stand for years, but cutting the epic novel down to a manageable feature-length script proved nearly impossible, so the movie was abandoned. When it came time to adapt it, Romero was the first director to sign on, being a fan of the book and feeling that television was the perfect medium for the story. He spent a year working on the show, drawing up a series Bible and penning scripts for each episode. He decided to walk away when ABC became nervous with the planned length of the show, with the network demanding the amount of episodes be cut down. So, originally, this was supposed to be composed of 10 episodes.
Mm-hmm.
That's why, when it came time to it, they said, you can't have 10 episodes, it's just gonna be 2 air dates. Could you imagine the amount that got cut out?
Yeah.
That's just, I don't know. It seems like you'd be losing a lot.
I guess it makes sense why the new ones are so long then.
Yeah. The screenwriter who also wrote Carrie quit during production.
Why?
It says, Lawrence D. Cohen, like Romero, was excited by the scope of 10 episodes, but ABC decided to trim things down. Cohen also started to lose faith in the project, deciding to leave when the series was reduced to a 2-parter.
So it wasn't like they were haunted or anything creepy?
No, nothing like that.
Good.
Stephen King wasn't really involved, and I just thought that was funny because, at the beginning of the movie when you had Bill talking about it, he was just like, these people are gonna butcher my book and I don't really want to be involved.
Yeah.
I found that kind of funny.
That's funny. You would think he would want to be involved. Did they
Yeah.
not ask him, or... Oh.
He knew it was happening and gave the show his blessing, but since he had no contractual say in how it was made, he declined further involvement.
He was probably busy writing other books anyway.
Probably. He did say that he was surprised by how ambitious and frightening it was, though, so he did give them credit. Pennywise's makeup was inspired by Phantom of the Opera. They were trying to do the upturned nose, the bald dome, and the cheekbones. So they did pretty well with that, because even with it being like a red ball, you could still kind of picture, it kind of upturned.
Yeah.
Adult Stan only has 3 scenes. Part 1 of it shows that literal Boy Scout Stan has a hard time buying into the myth of Pennywise, even when the clown almost eats him in the sewer. Like his friends, he did his best to forget all about the monster and dairy when he grew up, until he gets a call reminding him of his promise to come back if Pennywise returned. Stan can't face the thought and commits suicide instead of facing his past. This means that despite actor Richard Macer getting billed in the main cast and appearing in promotional photos, he only appears in 3 scenes and he's dead in one of them.
Poor Stan.
Hey, he got paid for it.
Well, that's true.
The series was a huge success for ABC when it aired, bringing in around 30 million viewers across its 2-night premiere, alongside scarring a generation of children with nightmares about man-eating clowns. The show also earned good reviews, with Tim Curry, in particular, being singled out for praise. Of course, he did amazing.
Yeah, he definitely did.
So, I liked this one. The Asylum Guard is a jab at King's greatest rival. Did you catch that?
No.
The guard's name was Koontz.
Oh.
The work of King and fellow author Dean Koontz is often compared since they both write popular horror fiction. Both have a unique writing style and passionate fan bases who often like to debate over which author is the best. Neither of them really acknowledge this, though it's interesting to note that King takes a small jab at Kuntz in both the book and miniseries. When Pennywise recruits former bully Henry Bowers to attack the returning Losers Club, he has to break him out of an insane asylum where he's watched by a guard named Kuntz. Where Henry says Kuntz is the worst, and the stand-in for the author, known for his love of dogs, is eventually ripped to bits by a Doberman when Henry escapes. Hopefully the reference was all in good fun on King's part. So the new Pennywise, Bill Skarsgård, was born the year the show aired.
That's crazy.
I know. He's just a baby.
I know there's a lot of time that has passed, but his makeup is definitely better and creepier.
Oh, I agree. One of the most mocked elements of the series and the book is the reveal that Pennywise's true form is that of a giant rubbery spider.
That's so stupid.
It's probably the lamest twist possible, and it doesn't help that the effects used to bring this creature to life on the small screen were less than convincing. The final battle in the book is more complex and otherworldly, though it would have been impossible to film on a television budget. Tommy Lee Wallace had the same concerns with the ending, but felt he could make it work with the right monster design. The original concept he picked for the spider looked meaner and bulkier, but the effects crew had to simplify it during construction. Wallace and the cast have since admitted that the ending is a letdown after all the build-up, and that replacing Curry with a cheap-looking effect wasn't the smartest move. Stephen King has said he decided to make his scary creature a clown because clowns scare children more than anything else. He said to Conan O'Brien, "They do have that kind of monstrous thing going for them."
Yeah, I think a lot of people are afraid. Not just kids, but a lot of
Right.
people.
Yeah. Jonathan Brandis, who portrayed young Bill Denbrough in It, had worked on another Stephen King film adaptation the year prior. He did the voiceover for the opening scenes of the 1989 film Pet Sematary. And despite being set in Derry, Maine, the miniseries was actually shot in and around Vancouver, British Columbia. And that's all I got.
Okay, then I have social media comments. Tyler Hammond says, I watched this when I was entirely too young to do so, and it affected me so much that I was afraid to sit on the toilet for a long time. I couldn't get over that it lived in the sewers.
That's a good point. If it comes up the drains, it could come up the toilet too.
Yeah, that's creepy. Amy K. Schmidt said, It is a classic. I don't know why it is my fave. I'm not afraid of clowns, but I love the suspense. I mean, I don't particularly like clowns. They are kind of creepy. My girls love it as well. We watched the original, the remake, and It Chapter 2. The main reason I wanted to watch the new ones was Bill Skarsgård. He played Roman in Hemlock Grove, and I loved him in that. That's where I know him from.
Yeah, remember I was telling you he was in that Netflix show and I couldn't remember the name of it. That was the show.
Okay. Yeah, Chad made me watch that.
Mm-hmm.
Brittany Grace Bartlett said, This movie is a classic. I grew up watching it. Him coming out of the drain was definitely the freakiest part. It made me scared of drains as a kid. Still not too fond of them, actually. I also love the scene where they are standing by the water and the skeleton comes out. That scared the shit out of my 6-year-old self.
Yeah, it's funny that was in there because I totally forgot to mention that part. That's what happened to Eddie. He saw the clown, but he was in the shower at school, and all of the shower heads came out.
Yeah, it's funny that you forgot to mention that part because that was my favorite line of the entire movie, was when the clown comes up from the drain after he makes it bigger and he goes, Here I am, Wheezy.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but I thought that was so funny.
Yeah, and she's right. That is a freaky, because, like, you're in this place that you're already feeling vulnerable by yourself, and the drain literally opens up, and this grown-ass man comes up through the drain.
Yeah, and also the pipes were just, like, swinging around like crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, I was rewatching this today, and my teeny tiny little son walked in during this part and was just staring up like, what in the world?
Oh my gosh.
Hopefully he didn't absorb any of it.
Probably not.
But yeah, this was a long one, obviously, because, like, the whole movie was long. It was over 3 hours.
Yeah.
It was a lot to cover, but I really enjoyed this one.
I did too. It took me like 4 days to watch it though, but I did really enjoy it.
Yeah, and if you think about it in terms of like a 2-part miniseries, that would be more doable.
Yeah.
So, I don't know why. The first time I watched this, before we did this episode, I always thought that it was like an HBO thing. It's weird that it aired on ABC.
Huh. Yeah, I didn't know that. That's
like,
weird.
For something that was as scary as it was.
I always just thought it was a movie.
I don't know. I do want to see the newest one. I have seen the remake. I really liked it. It was, you're right, it's a lot scarier, but it is good.
A lot scary.
The kids make that remake, though. They had really good actors for kids.
Yeah, the kids are funny, but the clown parts are a lot scarier. Mm-hmm. Even if you watch it very quietly with subtitles, it's still scary.
So that's all we have for you this episode. The next episode, we're going to be covering the movie The Witch. It is the only recent one that we're doing. It seems like all of these that were voted are older ones.
Yeah, I'm pretty scared.
The Witch is only like, what, 1 or 2 years old?
Yeah. I mean, would it be too much to ask for you guys to choose something like The Nightmare Before Christmas? I mean, come on.
Yeah, it's The Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown.
Yeah, like, that's more my speed. This scary shit, ugh.
So yeah, be on the lookout for that, and we will see you next time. Bye.
Get your pumpkin spice on.